wax on, wax off. Hey, just so you guys know, I'm not even sure if this is working. There's always a delay when you hit the button on Facebook Live before it says, hey, you're actually live. So I feel like I'm just standing here for like 10 seconds waving like an idiot. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Finn proudly brings to you our weekly Q&A. We got some good questions for you guys. You guys, I can tell just like what I love about you guys is you guys make shit happen. The rest of the world, man, drives me crazy with how much victims they are. Everybody's a fucking victim of something, but you guys are out there making stuff happen, and I just love it. I can't honestly say enough good things about you guys. Just so you guys know, we're going to be doing another one of the free training. We did a little intimate one. I think there's about 15, 20 people on there. It was, I loved it. It was great. We're going to be doing more of those, probably once every 2 weeks to a month. I just love hanging out with you guys. It helps me anyways because I come up with all my content, hearing the things you guys get stuck on and things like that. And it's just, it's really helpful in general. I think it was Paul Griefson had the idea of coming up with your own. Like a lot of you guys are really interested in the little Loom videos where you can sign clients without chasing them. And as I mentioned, there's 3 parts of that: the demonstration, the plan, and the offer. And the offer is probably the biggest key that makes it so you don't have to actually face-to-face sell a client and go through the sales call and proposal and all those things. But I'd love to do a little training where we actually help you guys make yours and sexify your existing offers so that they can be easier to sell. So unofficially, we're going to be doing that over probably the next week or two. I'll make an official announcement. But if you're interested in that, shoot me a private message, and I'll make sure to get you first on the invite list just in case we fill up. All right, let's get into some questions. So August asks, anyone know what appointment setting companies usually charge? Appointment setters, August. It can vary. They usually either do some kind of like hourly or like monthly cost like of an employee, and some of them will do like 10% commission for what I've seen. But typically you're looking about like $250 to $500 for a virtual assistant to do cold outreach, and probably some of the better ones will want 10% of your sales. Now I'll tell you, the best thing you can do, by the way, to make that process useful is 2 things in my experience when we've used cold outreach to best capitalize. Have a clear picture of, remember, it's like quality over quantity. So what I mean by that is make sure they're reaching out to people who are spending money. Those are always better leads than people who are not. And then you narrow the list of people they're contacting, and then give them an offer that's easy to sell. Do those 2 things, and you'll be really successful with cold outreach people in general. Zamzi, that's a weird spelling. What keeps you all motivated? I think there's 2 levels to this, Zamzi. Motivation is like a state of mind that comes and goes, and then there's inspiration, which to me is a state more like of your own kind of purpose, your spirit, your drive, and those things. I generally have a whole lot of inspiration, but motivation is hard to come by. So I don't know, I read a lot of books and have morning and evening routines to get myself into state. But for the most part, it's the inspiration and wanting to help people and make a difference that keeps going. So this is a thing I think most people screw up, is like having a purpose in business. A lot of times we think we have to have this like Elon Musk launch rockets into space. But your purpose can be really, really small. It just has to be meaningful. It doesn't have to be like, I'm going to save the world kind of thing. So like one that I've do a lot in our agency, for example, is I just want to deliver better client experiences than everybody else. Like a lot of the lawyers I work with have been burned so many times and had so many shitty experiences with marketers. And so I want to show them like not all marketers are bad. So like that's it. That's my purpose in doing it. And so that keeps me motivated, is wanting to deliver these good experiences. So you don't always have to have that like I'm going to get us to another planet or change the whole world or end world hunger. Sometimes it can just be that little small but meaningful why. And that'll keep you motivated and inspired all in one. James, what's your opinion on chatbots for local businesses? Help time on site or hurt speed in SEO, create more leads, spam? Thinking of suggesting to my low volume optometrist, but have no real world feedback on how it works for small mom and pop businesses. I can tell you, James, on the lawyer sites, if they use like a chat software that says, hey, you got questions, they'll get about a 10% bump in conversions. But I'll tell you, James, the most important thing with that kind of chat software, if like you're using ZopeIM or whatever, not enough people do this with chat software, is look at the fucking questions they're asking over and over and then take those questions and use them to improve the website. So like lawyers, for example, in my space, you'll hear over and over and over, they say the same damn shit. I'll fight hard, I'm aggressive, I'm tough, I guarantee, call me now. No fee unless we win, free consultation. And then the questions they get asked over and over are two things, three things actually. How much money am I going to get? How long is it going to take? Do I have a case? And then sometimes they'll ask as well, I'm blanking on this one. I just had it a second ago. Okay, we'll come back to that. But if the person's asking how much money I'm going to get, here's how we figure out how much money you're going to get. Medical bills. That was the other one. Here's how we can help you with your medical bills. Like, you take the questions they're asking in the chat software and use that, put it into the website, and then you'll find that's actually the best use of the chat software. Claude Hopkins calls this entering the conversation that's already happening in your prospect's head. So if they're coming there and they're like all stressed about their medical bills, and the website talks about, I'm going to fight hard and I'm aggressive, like, they don't care about any of that. They just want to know, can you help me with my bills? And so that's the first thing that you talk about. And the only way you can know that is from the chat software. So that's, in my opinion, the best way to use the chat software is to weed out the objections and then to preemptively answer those. And then you can actually remove the chat software and the website will convert like gangbusters. Shake. My question is, how do you guys onboard a client? I mean, making contracts and all, and what is your SOP, system of operations? Note, I'm new in this field. Shake, I'm going to give you the worst answer in history. I'm probably the worst person in the world to follow on this. We do not use contracts in our agency. And a lot of our stuff is sold as like month to month, try it, and we're really good at keeping people a long time. But actually, I understand how important contracts. Part of the reason is in our field, lawyers, like, it'll just get lawyerized, and the contract signing process can take 6 months. So it's more just like, let's try it a month and stop talking about it. And if it works at the end of the month, then we can keep going. And if it doesn't, I'll give you your money back. That's the deal. Yes or no, right? But this is a big, big philosophical shift, is going from what I call onboarding, which is like, hey, how can I get your access to your account and get the necessary information and automate it and get away from you, to what I call welcome aboard. And the more you can make clients feel like they're welcomed and their business is wanted and they're not just another sale, the more you can create that kind of wow factor when they first sign up. So I've mentioned this before in some other talks, but we send an edible arrangement right away. I send them like a salted caramel apple, some cookies, and a welcome note. And then I also drop a package in the mail, which usually takes like a week to get there. And that's also part of the welcome. And we've done things like where our whole team is standing there and we have a signed, handwritten welcome thing that says, hey, we're so excited to have you. And like, you know, that just makes, I stole that actually, by the way, from other lawyers. I didn't invent any of this stuff. I just saw people who were doing it really well in some masterminds and borrowed it. But that's what you want to think about, is not like, how can I onboard somebody, but how can I make them feel welcome and appreciated? So obviously you're going to have to get access to the accounts and those kind of things. So you can do some of that automated, like with a video and go high level. We've got lots of people in our mastermind that do that. But actually for us personally, I just have like the welcome aboard, and then I say, hey, I'm going to need a little info from you. Is that cool? And I usually just do that over chat. And then I send them some updates on where it's going. And the updates are actually the most important thing, because right after they sign and give you money, that's when they get a little bit nervous that like they just made a mistake or something bad is happening. So that's when we most over communicate. So I'll say things like, my onboarding, like this really happens. I'll say, hey, I'm just going out with the kids. I'll be out for a couple hours right now. When I get back, I'm going to set up your account. But just so you know, like, I didn't disappear to an island in Cuba and take all your money and run. So everything's okay. I'll be back in a couple hours, and I'll keep you posted on how that's going. And they really, really like those kind of like just human updates. So that's how we onboard. Sam, we just rely on referrals. We don't need any help. How would you respond / crush this objection? Sam, I have a probably different answer than most, which is I would not handle that objection, is I would use this to refine the clients that I'm trying to get so that I wouldn't even speak to people that don't spend on marketing. We have a concept we call the shoe buyer, and it's really, really simple. Is if you compare what we do to selling shoes, what most people try and do is they try and sell shoes to people who are bare feet, the people who need it the most. And that makes sense logically. So like if a business isn't spending on marketing, they clearly need it, right? And we approach all these people who would never spend on marketing and are just not that kind of people. To me, I look for people who have a closet full of 200 shoes. If they're spending on AdWords and their website and SEO, and are they doing Facebook, and are they doing referral campaigns? Are they spending on TV? Do they spend on billboards? That to me is a shoe buyer. So what I do is I just don't deal with people that you have to convince that marketing is a good idea. I swear you'll save yourself so many headaches if you stick by that principle. Is focus on the people who are spending money right now today, and don't try and convince. Now, having said that, as far as handling their objections, what I found that actually works best in the past is don't try and fight it. Is what we actually do is we use something called the buddy system, which enhances their referrals. And I say, well, what are you doing to make those referrals happen? And almost always local businesses we just do a good job, right? And like, as you guys know, like hope and doing a good job is not a business strategy. So I say, hey, I've got a little strategy that we can, like add a couple extra referrals to what's working. Would you be willing to try that? And what'll happen is, if it goes well, which if your stuff works, then they'll get a couple of referrals, and then they'll say, what else can we do? And then I sell them the next thing, which is the ongoing ad campaign. But I never try and convince them, because you're at a point of disadvantage anyway. We actually do very, very little objection handling in our agency. What we do is figure out what the objections are. So like, for example, in the lawyer space, an objection you get a lot is, can I talk to somebody you've already worked with? So then what I do is I take that objection and I put it back into my marketing, and I show examples of people we've worked with. But the best way to deal with objections is way before they come up, because you're the least believable at the moment of the credit card. So those are my thoughts on dealing with that objection. Probably different than most. Having said that, there are a lot of good sales handling objection techniques, but I found if you twist somebody's arm and wrestle them for the credit card, where it hurts you later is retention. So I would just go with it, and I would just say, hey, we got a little referral campaign. We can add on to it. If you want, you can message me. I'll send you this little referral campaign. And then once you get them a referral or two, they'll be open to doing more stuff. They'll say, what else do you got that works? Our man Brad here. Anyone know a somewhat simple way to find large amounts of dentist offices without manually searching Google and doing it that way? I basically want basic info like doctor name, website, phone number, email type stuff. Nothing sketchy as far as unethical scraping. But there's got to be a way to get this information in a more automated fashion than manually having a VA compile it. Appreciate any guidance or tools you've used to use this. As I've mentioned, Brad, in our comment, I wanted to add one more thing. They used to be called Info USA. They're called Data Axle. I forget the new name, but anyways, they're Info USA. They've been around for like 40 years, 50 years. They sell mailing lists. They have the best mailing lists on the planet that you can buy, down to the ones that are spending money. Also, a big way to scrape data that will like make your life a lot easier in any sort of offline niche. They always have professional associations. So like in my case, the California State Bar Association. You can go to the California State Bar and see every damn lawyer who's listed in the California State Bar, and they've organized all that data for you in one place. I don't know what that's called in dentistry, but I know it exists. There always are these little associations you can grab all that information for and just kind of rifle through it. Oh, sorry, and as well, Brad, like a couple people recommended some tools. I'm not a tool guy. I actually just used, this is my experience, and I'm not saying like this has to be anybody else's, but since 2007, I've probably had to learn like fucking 10, 20 pieces of new software a year for 14 years that I got so sick of just learning new software that I try and run my agency as like minimal software as humanly possible. Like really the only software we're using right now is Asana. And other than that, like most of our stuff is just Loom videos where we let people know what's going on. But like I have the lowest maintenance, lowest software agency in the world and that's just a personal choice because I got sick of learning it. So there are some tools, but of course there will be a learning curve with it. Somebody mentioned D7. There's another one. Check out the comments on those. But those should be helpful to you. Tracy. I'm looking at creating a very basic entry-level retainer package to help small one-man businesses who can't otherwise afford our big retainers. What service you offer that your client values and doesn't require more than 2 hours of work a month? Tracy, I'm going to give you a two-part answer to this. Part one is, to be honest, I think the one-man operations or the one-woman operations are actually the worst clients to have. they're usually really good people. Like, I don't say that like they're shitty human beings or anything, but they make for shitty clients. Like, my first lawyer was actually a guy named Tony, who was just an awesome guy. He was a criminal defense lawyer in Pennsylvania, and Tony was a criminal defense lawyer. So what did he do? He spent most of his day in court. So whenever I would generate AdWords phone calls, he was the secretary and the receptionist, so he didn't answer the phone. When people would call, he didn't know how to close them. He didn't know how to handle them. Despite being a nice guy, Tony was really, really, really hard to generate business for. And I would say that's generally true with most one-man shows. I'll tell you the single biggest, most untapped thing, though, if you do want to create a service for the one-man shows, is they do not know how to put their customers in a list and market to them. It's the simplest thing in the world, but they're always obsessed with getting somebody new, and they do not know how to get repeat and referral business. So the simplest thing I would do is help them set up a campaign where they can get people into a list and put in some automated follow-ups where you offer them things like if they're running a restaurant and somebody comes in and it's a one-person restaurant and somebody eats the chicken on Monday, then load them into a damn email list and offer them the steak on Tuesday, or come and watch a live band on Friday. That's the easiest thing you can do. It's just setting up an email list, a couple of campaigns, and you can use the same campaigns for every client. But having said that, I would personally stay away from like little mom and pop shops. My sweet spot personally is I don't like the little ones where they're so small that they can't really move quickly on the things you do, and they don't know how to utilize it, and there's often a lot of mindset issues. But I also don't like big corporate giants where they're like, you have to have meetings, like, can we have a meeting about the meeting to talk about the meeting so we can go over the meeting notes from the last meeting? So I like them, for me, 2 to about 20 employees is my sweet spot. I like them to have some traction on their own, and they're growing. So that's what I look for, and just been my experience, you'll make your life so much easier if you look for that in a client. All right. Nick, when it comes to close high-ticket deals, what are the best books you recommend for a newbie to read? I don't know if I have it with me because I just traveled and got rid of a bunch of books, but there's a really good one, Nick, called Spin Selling by Neil Rackman. And spin selling is all about, because most of us sell intangible products, like if you sell e-commerce, like in some ways your sale is simpler because they can physically touch it and hold it and see what they're buying, except for when they buy it from like Alibaba or AliExpress and it's the Chinese knockoff and it doesn't look like the one in the picture. But for the most part, it's a simpler process because they can see it and they understand what it does. It is much trickier for us because most of our stuff is intangible. SEO is intangible. Facebook ads are intangible. A website is intangible, at least until they're built and they're working, right? It's a very intangible thing. And what he covers in there is how to show people the cost of inactivity. And this actually drives more high-ticket sales than anything, is once they understand like that not doing SEO is costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, or not doing Facebook ads is costing them money. And he has some really great questions that help people to realize that on their own. And then what happens is when they realize that the cost of inaction is greater than moving forward, because what ends up happening in a lot of high ticket sales is you'll meet resistance about the fact that your thing costs money and a lot of it. And so they'll say, well, I don't know, 10 grand is a lot of money. But the minute you can show them that, okay, yeah, it costs 10 grand to hire me, but not hiring me is going to cost you 25 or 50 or 100, and they realize that for themselves, then you won't meet all that resistance at the end of that kind of conversation. And so it's a really good book for helping to dial in that cost. So again, Neil Rackman, Spin Selling, I think it's like $15 on Amazon, but that's the one I would most recommend for selling. And then as far as like just getting marketing dialed in, anything Dan Kennedy, Jay Abraham, all that stuff is like really, really good. Lucian, what big problems have you faced since reaching 100 grand in month in revenue? Lucian, when you get to 100 grand a month, and I wrote about this in my book, in the 5 stages of agency growth, typically when you're at 100 grand a month, you're in the manager stage. So when you start out your agency, you're in stage 1, you're just a little freelancer. It's just you, just trying to get work, hustling to make sales, and eventually you get good enough and you make some sales after, usually a long period of struggle, but you eventually get out of it and you start hiring employees. And what happens is when you reach stage 2, hiring is your new challenge because now you're limited by what you can get done through other people. It's a totally different challenge. When you reach stage 3, which you're at 100 grand, Usually you're more like a manager and you don't do any of the day-to-day work. You don't post ads, you don't talk with clients, but you manage a team who are all connected to those things. They'll say, this client said that. And what ends up happening is usually when you reach the managerial stage, your agency is kind of like, for lack of a better term, it's a disorganized clusterfuck. And when you're in that disorganized clusterfuck, it's usually because it's managed by chaos. And so usually what will happen is employees will come to you and say things like, hey, can you help me with this? Can you do this? And you'll just be bombarded with requests all day long. And it takes a while to realize you have to 80-20 it, and you have to figure out that like not all these requests are created equal. And what you need to do is begin to pull in the system and manage it proactively. And how that works is what you do is you have to like know all your key performance indicators. Like for me, I want to know how long are the clients staying? How is our communication going? What are our sales? What are our like lead numbers in our marketing? How many people have responded to the videos we're doing? Those are probably about the 5 numbers I want to know. And I use those numbers to identify areas of problems. So let's just say like, hey, I noticed our sales have dropped off the last 2 months. And that won't like automatically solve your problems, but it'll tell you where to look. And that is where you have to bring in the team. You have to say, hey, when somebody says I need to get the tracking code updated on the website, you say, hey, I don't want to make you feel like that's not important, but I just looked at all our numbers right now and our sales are not where they need to be. So we need to work on this area, and you can bring the whole team into focus that. And then you start to manage it proactively instead of reactively. Usually when you get into that stage, like it's a chaotic reactive mess and you're just responding to all the client fires and employee fires, and what ends up happening is you can just be 80 hours a day dealing with your phone blowing up and your email blowing up, and you have to like kind of put it into office hours and manage it proactively. So you have to know your numbers and you have to pull your team together and say, these are the numbers, these are the problems we're going to be working on. And when you do that, you can have a very smooth $100,000 a month agency. But usually you're going to go through a little bit of period of chaos before you get it in place. Although if you've like been through that stage before, you can set it up right the first time. I didn't. I actually had like the most fucking chaotic agency on the first face of the earth. But you can do it better than I can, learn from other people's mistakes. Good question, Lucian, by the way. Okay, I just started running this is Roderick. I just started running a POD store, and my current product that I'm promoting is printed t-shirt. My current strategy is to create 10 ad sets, each with one interest, and run $10 per day to it with conversion as my objective. My day one KPI is cost per click under $2 or 1 ATC. I don't know what you mean, ATC. If I don't have that by day one, kill the ad. Day two, need to at least have ATC. But here is the thing. Since my pixel is new and I have no purchases at all, just having conversion objective makes sense. I read through some other strategies in this group and see some start with traffic first and retarget for purchase. Any kind soul want to let me know which ad strategy works for the apparel fashion market niche. As usual, my man Roderick, I have a very different opinion than most. I think too many people think about the Facebook ads and the pixels and the targeting and not enough on the people on the other side of the ad. I have a lot of friends who've done stuff in the t-shirt space, and what I'm going to tell you is you're entering a very, very competitive space where most people are selling the same shit, competing on cost. And so what I would focus on before trying to figure out how to like run 87 split tests that probably will not be profitable is to have a unique t-shirt or kind of apparel that somebody really wants that can stand out. Like, there's all kinds of little sub niches. Like I'm just throwing bullshit out there because I'm not actually in that space. But like, let's say you had little Lord of the Rings t-shirts. Well, that's going to be a better experience if you can niche down and be the Lord of the Rings t-shirts guy than just having the same generic t-shirts they can get 4,000 other places that are competing with them online. Or maybe you just got hilarious t-shirts. I'm rocking the mechanical Bart Simpson. Maybe you could do the Simpsons. But you're going to need something that nobody else has, what I call a little mini monopoly. If you do not get a mini monopoly in your niche, then my opinion personally is it will be irrelevant which targeting, whether you do conversion or traffic or retargeting, because it'll be the same t-shirts they can get anywhere. So this is one of the keys, actually, by the way, that makes all of our agencies go, and we help people to do that in the mastermind, is create what I call a mini monopoly. You want to be the only one who has the shit you do, so that they can't get it anywhere else. So if you're selling t-shirts, you got to have like a unique angle. So I would say before you turn on the ads and do all those things, it sounds like you're just selling the same generic custom t-shirts they can get anywhere. Narrow it down to something that is unique to you, and I would test those small. But as far as like, your question implies like, will a conversion ad or target or paying for traffic conversion? Usually it's not about that. It's about the people. I see all these people getting crushed right now by iOS 14, and they're obsessing about the Facebook metrics and not enough about the mini monopoly, which gives you the tool to stand out. Because when you have the tool to stand out and the right offer, you can almost run them anywhere. Like, when we've made our agency stuff work on Facebook ads, we can run it on LinkedIn organic. We can direct mail people. We can cold outreach because the offer works. So think really, really deeply about your mini monopoly and your offer. Make those t-shirts stand out from the noise. And what you'll find is your ads will just automatically work better as a function of that. I think that's all we got for questions. But just a little reminder for those of you guys who are here at the end. We're going to be doing a training probably over the next 2 weeks if you want an early invite. And my trainings, by the way, we don't do like, I know you guys have been on webinars where they're just like a sales pitch. Like they give you some slides, they give you a little bit of half-baked info, and then at the end there's a, like a $5,000 course. I do got some stuff for sale, but that's not what our trainings are about. I think you guys are the coolest people in the world. And in 2007, when I first got started, there just wasn't this kind of thing. There was nobody I could really ask. So I love giving back to you guys. If you're interested in the stuff that we can do, you can ask me personally. But our trainings are just straight, real deal shit, no fluff. So if you'd like a little invite for that, post a comment below or just send me a PM. And then when that goes live, I'll let you know first. And that's all I got for you guys. This way I'm going to post the replay on YouTube for any of you guys who are subscribers on the old YouTube. And that's all I got. Thanks for listening to me hanging out in my bedroom. I hear my kids got back and are screaming in the next room. So may the force be with you guys.